Hello there. The Highfield House Asylum Hotel in Southampton is becoming a hotspot of protest, and this weekend the protesters apparently came under attack.
From Hamas. Uh-oh.
And things were getting quite heated as far as I can see, and there are other videos out there, and it's something that has led to talk of a large contingent turning up to support the protesters at the next event, which I think makes this quite a dangerous period. What do you reckon, Richard?
Yes, you could see what was interesting in this demonstration, which I haven't seen on such demonstrations before, is you could see, let's just say, a different demographic opposing the protesters there. And that is a very worrying shift. And they looked like they wanted, looked like they meant business. They weren't, if it wasn't for the police being there, I don't know how that would have ended up. I believe that there may be increased demonstrators, we'll say, from the patriotic side, who will be potentially turning up this Saturday, I think. An announcement is going to be made on that later, I believe.
Yes.
If it comes in during this broadcast, we will let you know. But I can see that tempers are starting to get frayed. And this makes you wonder at which point does this all sort of turn into what we have been warning about for a very long time, into something very ugly. And there's nothing, I can't say too much on that for obvious reasons, but we just hope that it doesn't turn ugly, and we hope that everything remains peaceful and calm, obviously. Jeff.
Yeah, well, here's another one. I believe this was from the weekend. I'm not sure whether it was Saturday. I think it was Sunday. It was dated Sunday on Twitter, but on X, sorry. But this shows you something that's been going on as well.
Yo, gentlemen, slow down a little bit.
He's been aggravating. Get rid of him. He's been aggravating all the time. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. You're aggravating. Fuck off. It's our country, mate. I don't want to fight. Fuck off. They don't like being told by women what to do, mate. No, they don't. It's not their culture. It's our culture.
Just coming to your left side. No, you're fine. You're trying to keep them on the top.
Never trust a listy with your kids. Termination! Deportation! Termination! Deportation! Termination! Deportation! Termination! Deportation! Deportation! Termination! Terrorists!
Yeah, you get the idea. Things are beginning to get heated. And as Richard said, this is not the Antifa types turning up now and being there. It's not. It's morphing into something, dare I say it, a little more dangerous. So, yeah.
Yes, these aren't just soy latte guzzling purple head brigade. No. No, these people hold very, very... In fact, these people would be quite disgusted, and are probably quite disgusted by the purple head soy latte brigade, which have been supporting them and welcome them into the country. And I think... Oh, my goodness, Jeff. I mean, we keep saying it. We just hope there's a political off-ramp to this, even though Dr. David Bett says he doesn't believe there is one. We hope that there is. We're going to keep pushing for a political solution. You know, there's other than that, it's not looking good, Jeff, is it, really?
No, it's got to the position where people are coming into the country and it's their expectation that they'll get what they need, get what they want, get what they like. and it's their right. All led by one certain person, which we'll come on to in a minute and show you what he said about all of this. I just want to show you this is another video from this event as well. If I can get rid of that one, would help. Where the police basically just pushing the protesters back and getting rid of them, getting them out of there. They're not interested in the protesters at all, just get rid of them. Yeah, so it's not looking good at all as far as I'm aware.
No, it's not.
I just don't know where this is going.
How long can the police keep policing these events for, these things for, these demonstrations for? That's what I want to know. Because there's a lot of crime not being dealt with at the moment on the streets of this country because of these protests, legitimate protests, incidentally. I hasten to
peaceful.
add.
The ones
peaceful,
I've been to have been peaceful, and it's only now that it's beginning to they're getting niggled, they're getting probed, they're getting needled, by people to see if they can get them to do something. And you could see that tempers are running, and the police are probably, I would say that right now the police are more intent on clearing the protesters out, because that's the easiest way of keeping any peace. Just get rid of the protesters, put a blanket ban on all the protesters, except the London pro-Palestinian marchers, of course. Everyone, all the other protesters have to be shut down. And that'll keep the peace. That's the way it's sort of going.
Well, I've also seen footage, I believe, from the same protest, I believe, also in the same area, I may be wrong, where protesters were getting objects thrown at them. And were being attacked by the people, from inside what I believe, I may be wrong, is a migrant hotel. And the protesters outside were getting objects thrown at them. And it's starting to look like, okay, so they seem quite emboldened, but they would be emboldened, wouldn't they? Let's face it, they've been given everything on a plate. They've been protected from everything. No matter what their crimes are, they will not face justice, regardless of the severity of it. And yet you have people like Lucy Connolly and Peter Lynch who faced horrific jail terms, as far as I'm concerned. Horrific and totally disproportionate jail terms in this two-tier system. Whilst some of these people are just getting off scot-free. I mean, what did I read today? That, was it an illegal migrant, was pretending to be a nurse working in a hospital in Britain. You know, borrowing their badge or borrowing somebody else's badge and actually doing shifts. You're thinking, what? What? It's just, what's happening, Jeff?
I mean, to be honest with you, if someone goes into a hospital with a badge, everybody knows who that person is on their shift, don't they? Don't they? Don't they know who's on their shift with them, the people around them? Don't they? Someone new just turns up with exactly the same name as someone on their shift. You've got to be thinking, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to show you. This is the guy that started all this off, basically, with his... where's it gone? Why is
it's
it
Jeffnology time? Jeffnology, get ready for it.
This is really weird. I've uploaded it, but for some reason, that particular video, let me see if I can find it again, has
I'll tell you what, Jeff,
whilst
you're doing that, I will go on to this a second. Yes, it says here that, this is in the Sun, by the way, hospital horror, male migrant 33 posed as female. A&E nurse.
Well, that makes it even worse.
And helped treat seriously ill patients at the same hospital as Lucy Letby.
Well, there opens a can of worms. That opens a can of worms, doesn't it?
But it gets better. A migrant who posed as a female nurse and worked on the A&E ward at the same NHS hospital as Lucy Letby, where she was employed, has avoided jail. So, yeah, okay. So, how do you spell? Lucius Njoku? something like that. 33, used the name of agency nurse Joyce George to work as a healthcare assistant at the Countess of Chester Hospital in Chester. Jeff, that's just, I mean, that is good grief. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the photo here, and I've got to say, I can't imagine this person passing as a female, this gentleman passing as a female.
Oh, you're
mind you, I don't-
misgendering.
I'm
You're
sorry, if I
misgendering.
if I misgendered, I do apologise. I do apologise. It was an accident, a slip of the tongue. There
Yes.
we go. Go on, Jeff. Have you found
Anyway,
the video
I
yet?
found this. I found this. This is the video that should wake everybody up to what's going on, really.
And I think, in a way, for a country like Britain, whose future has got to be as a nation of global citizens, not just British citizens, then I think, interfaith in this context is incredibly important, because you cannot be a global citizen and be religiously illiterate.
Yes, a nation of global citizens. This is the whole thing. I've said it before, but the law on everything to do, human rights, benefits, everything in this country is gradually being morphed into a situation where someone can just turn up and they qualify for the lot because they have exactly the same rights as anyone else in this country. You have no extra rights because you were born here, no extra rights because your great-grandfather, they were born here, none. None of that. In fact, you are tolerated here because you're not becoming a global citizen. Your duty is to become a global citizen, not a British citizen. That's got nothing to do with it. That's all going. And this is the World Economic Forum and the United Nations plan for us. And we have to resist it. And I'll show you who is resisting it. This guy here actually lays it out quite well. And that is Ben Habib. And I'll show you what he had to say about this sort of thing from Advance UK, the leader of the new Advance UK.
The split in politics is not between the left and the right. Those are misnomers. The split in politics is between those people who wish to govern through the global prism, ostensibly for the global betterment. And of course, if you're governing for global betterment, you couldn't care whether you got mass migration or not, because you count every human being as being equal. It doesn't mean anything to be a British citizen. If you're a globalist, mass migration is not an issue. You can't even bring yourself to call those people crossing the channel illegally illegal migrants. Starmer calls them irregular migrants. Have you picked up on that? He can't even call them what they are. What is the hope of this Prime Minister addressing the problem if he can't actually define the problem in the first place? They're not irregular, they're blooming illegal. And you won't get to the right solutions unless you can call the problem out for what it is. But you've got, on the so-called left, actually what you've got is what I would call uber-liberal, anti-democratic globalists. And then on what the so-called right is what you've got is people who believe in the nation state of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, believe in our Christian cultural roots as well as our Christian constitution, believe in freedom of action, believe in freedom of speech, stand against the indoctrination of their children, believe in democracy, believe in our elected officials being the ones that we should be holding to account for decisions, not supranational institutions, not having to take the knee to international law or to domestic bureaucracies who've been created actually to circumvent democracy. We want our elected officials to make our decisions so we know who bloomin' made them and we know who to vote out. That's what democracy is. And
all I can say is, well said, Ben. He seems to be the only of the major politicians who's got a handle on this. And it's the people who want to tear the country apart and turn it over to all comers. And there are those who want the country to be self-governing, sovereign, and we have our own system and our own democracy. And we look after ourselves and we vote people in to do what we want, not what they want. At the moment, it's completely and utterly reversed. We've got a bunch of politicians whose only job, they see it, is to make us become globalists, make us just think we're nothing, we have no history, and our history is awful. And we need to vote them out. We just need to get rid of them. Get rid of them. Vote them out. They've had their day, they had their try, and they've destroyed the nation. Totally.
Yep.
And it's not like anywhere else in the world is any better. They took a world-leading, world-class democracy, and they have done their best to destroy it. What a bunch of... Yeah. You know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always good to see something by Ben Habib. I mean, the man is totally inspirational, along with Nick Tenconi, Rupert Lowe, and Tommy Robinson. They are the people who are shifting the Overton window. And you can see that is actually manifested again today with reform, believe it or not. And you go, reform. Yes, I know. I'm not voting. I'm not particularly a fan of Mr. Farage. But James Orr, if I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly, has just come across. And he is Associate Professor, University of Cambridge, and is now the Senior Advisor to Nigel Farage. He is also, incidentally, a theologian and a patriot and a good man, from all accounts. So it looks like this pushing of the Overton window is meaning that reform itself is now having to reform. And have no doubt when people say that this whole thing with Advance is splitting the vote. No, it's changing. It's changing the right of politics. Who knows what we will be looking at in terms of political options by 2029, if that's as long as the general election takes to get there. We could be looking at a very, very different scenario altogether, one we can't even comprehend or conceive if the right unites. Personally, I'd like to see Ben Habib as leader of Advance UK, even Reform, taking over Reform with Rupert Lowe. That would be perfect. Or just amalgamating with Farage and Zia Youssef and a few others gone. That's my personal preference. But if not, hopefully by 2029, you never know, Ben Habib could be the man. Stranger things have happened. And there was a council today which seems to have imploded as well, a Reform council, which was where a couple of the council members were suspended, I think, from the party.
They got into a public spat. You know, which and as soon as you get into a public spat anywhere near Nigel, you suddenly find yourself gone, as Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe found out. And we'll come on to Rupert Lowe in a minute. I just want to say thank you very much to John Platt. Thank you for your contribution. Hi, Jeff and Richard. Have you seen the video by YouTube auditor Mark Jush covering a threatening bullying group of Muslim men marching through Dublin City? I haven't seen that one.
No, I haven't seen that. Or I might have.
So
I may have. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Yeah.
We'll have a little
I
look
don't
for
think
that one,
I have. So
I bombarded Jeff today with videos. So
he bombarded. Yeah, I ignored most of them. I ignore most of what he says anyway.
Yeah, that's all right. I do the same.
That's why these shows are so well constructed. Yes. And John Dingle, thank you. Hi, folks. Has anyone else seen the video of the woman being whipped by a worker in Iceland after he accused her of shoplifting? No, haven't seen that one either. It's getting quite ridiculous now,
but
because we're getting more. Our society is actually getting more and more violent. And everybody can think back to the 60s, where we had the Crays and the Richardsons, violent, but they kept it mostly in-house. And then we had the mods. Do you remember the skinheads versus the
mods and the rockers?
The mods and the rockers on the beach at Brighton and all that sort of thing. We went through all that. And we had football violence as well. But I think things are getting nastier now. It's just getting nastier.
It's different.
It's becoming
very
more
different.
widespread. Yes,
that was like a tribalistic kind of thing, that was. And it was a punch-up. And at the end of it, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some unfortunate fatalities from those events. But in general, the thing was, we're a bunch of lads, we're having a beer, and we're going to let off some steam, and we're going to go and have a fight. And I'm not saying that was a good thing, by the way. Far from it. But at least you can contextualise it and put it in its place, culturally and historically. Now, because I remember, again, all of us, well, probably most of you watching this will remember the terrible murder of Stephen Lawrence, okay? That's daily now. And the impact that had on that society, that is a daily occurrence now. That's happening every day. In fact, it's happening multiple times a day, that kind of thing. And you think, what? What has happened? And why have we allowed it? Why have we become so passive and acquiescent to the evil changes in this country? And we as Christians, I believe, are, incidentally, if you are a Christian like Jeff and myself, and I'm sure many of you watch this are, if you're a Christian, our role is not to sit back passively and just watch evil take over. Christ didn't just sit there. You know, the reason that Christ was crucified was because he spoke out, because he stood against evil. And obviously, you know, there's a bigger spiritual warfare going on there. Yes, as Christians are meant to love our enemies, a very difficult thing to do, incidentally, something I struggle with. But at the same time, Christ made a whip of cords. And I hope I'm not saying, if I'm saying, I hope I'm not saying anything blasphemous here myself, but he made a whip of cords, Christ did. And there are various examples of anger in the Bible. There we go. Anyway, Jeff, over to you.
Yeah, so, no, you're absolutely right. Everybody tries to they do portray Jesus as just being this sort of unangry, peaceful, totally, but he wasn't. Sometimes he even said he's not everybody's friend, didn't he? So, yeah. A nation scrambling for the pip. Yeah, that's about right. That's where we've got to. Everybody's in it for themselves, aren't they? And, that's something we never used to be like years and years and years ago. In fact, it was people would be ashamed to take any benefits at all. You know, my grandma and my granddad would have, you know, they'd have, oh, no way. You know, I'm working. I earn my living. Nowadays, that's a dirty word.
But things changed around the time of COVID. No, I've said this to you before, Jeff.
I think it changed before then, Richard. It was changing before then. COVID just rushed it along.
No, it was the worst thing that happened. It entered a different magnitude level altogether with what happened in COVID. You had people who were hardworking, their entire lives, built their businesses up, multi-generations of business people who relied on being able to function and trade within a free society. They didn't those businesses were lost. So many pubs and businesses that shut down during COVID have not opened up. And people thought, okay, well, if the system wants to shut me down, then you better give me something in return. And I have no problem with people like that who think that. Because to be honest with you, I agree with them. If the state and the system destroyed their lives, so many self-employed people I know were lost their homes during COVID. You know, and you think because of the lockdowns, you think, no, if the state can do that, then the state can bloody well pay for it. And I do understand that psyche. I totally understand that psyche. Because if you've got nothing, if you can't put food on your table, if you can't feed your family because the state has prevented you from doing so, not because you haven't tried to work, not because you haven't grafted, and your parents handed you, for instance, down a business and they grafted throughout that. For the society, for the state then to say, sorry, we're closing you down, effectively, which is what happened. With that, I mean, you can look at the furlough scheme, say, but they provided furlough. Not if you were a company director, they bloody well didn't. That's the other side of it. You know, company directors had real problems there. Jeff.
Yes, I get where you're coming from, but I got to be saying, I think the malaise set in quite a time ago. More and more people were finding an easier life, not doing anything. The stories were coming out way before COVID. It's just an accelerant as far as I'm concerned. But it has made it worse. But what's going to make it worse is Rachel Reeves, because she is going to take all the money that people earn and give it to other people. Because if they need to live and to exist and survive and eat and have a home, then someone has to pay for it. Then it's going to be everyone else. And that's where we're going. And that's all part of this globalist community, this everybody's the same. Everybody can come here and get what we've got. Because it's we've got it illegitimately somehow. It's not really ours. We didn't work for it. Our grandparents didn't work for it. and you can't build up a country with like-minded people anymore into I keep referring it to like a club of like-minded people following the same sort of interests to further their own interest in life and make a better society around them. That's got to go. That's got to go.
Yeah,
the
well,
globalists
so-
don't like these little clubs.
Do you know what? This is reminding me of something, this conversation. And that's one of the things I've noticed is still to this day, you have Conservative MPs, yes, there are still some left, and they still talk as if they're proud of the way that the government reacted during COVID. They're actually still proud of it. They're proud, oh, we stepped up to the mark, look what we did. I think you destroyed the effing country. You destroyed people's health by... Oh, I can't say what you did to destroy people's health, but people did it a few times, didn't they? Just to make sure that they were safe. But they weren't safe, were they? No, they certainly were not. And this is the thing that gets to me, is that these same politicians are there and they're proud of it. When Lee Anderson came over to reform from the Tories, okay? I mean, he was Labour before that, I think, wasn't he? Labour, then Tory, then... Yeah. Anyway, when he came across, he was there, and in his speech, in his acceptance speech, in his introduction speech into reform, there he was saying how proud he was of vaccines. And I thought, is this the time and place for this? You're coming across, you're stepping across the floor, and the first thing you talk about is vaccines. Why? Why? What? And this is still
you've got to
ingrained in
remember,
so many of them.
he was entering a party, if he was entering reform at the time, that had supported all that.
Yes, they did.
So he had to make sure that he was in with the top boys, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did. I mean,
Anyway,
yeah, Farage, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, thank you, Fee, for your contribution. I've just tuned in, and that first video reminded me of the miners' strike when the police were waving money at the strikers. Yeah, the miners' strike. I mean, that was putting down the miners and trying to. That you could say it was the first net zero thing, really, but I don't think
Good
it
point.
was. But
Well,
it could have been, couldn't it? You know, the first screw in the net zero thing, but. What those miners were hard-working people, and lots of them died as a result of going down the mines, you know, coughing their lungs up late in life and all this sort of thing. And I hadn't realised, but a lot of, during the Second World War, a lot of conscription wasn't to the front lines in the Royal Navy, Air Force and into the British Army, it was into the mines. Because we needed the mines. Now, there's a lesson for you. We needed the mines in World War II, and we needed people down there churning the coal out in order to survive as a nation. If we hadn't had that coal, arguably, we could have lost, because we couldn't have made all the steel for those ships.
No, Jeff, that's not true. I'm sure if Ed Miliband had been alive at the time, that he'd have erected some windmills. The place would have looked like Holland by the time he'd finished. Holland on steroids. Me. Yes, I'm sure he would have fixed a dynamo to each little stream and tributary in this country. Yes. But you're right though, Jeff. Those You know, I remember as a young kid living in Rumney in Gwent, and you'd hear, and this was a thing early in the morning. You could hear sometimes the what they used to call the dawn chorus, the miners, the old miners, their coughs, and as they would cough their lungs up every morning, and yes, many mining disasters took place in Wales and across the country. Obviously, Aberfan, the dreadful events of Aberfan, goes to show the price that the people of South Wales valleys paid for the black gold, as they call it. Yeah, Jeff.
I mean, I was a young kid when Aberfan took place, and it really hurt. It really hit me hard, that did, because I was at school, and the thought of running under your desk when that happened, when that entire slag heap just rained down on the village and covered the school, and that was, it was, they had people crying and screaming as they were trying to dig into it to try and get their kids out.
It was awful, Jeff. It was awful. I've got friends who survived Aberfan. Yeah.
Yeah.
My own father he heard on the radio. He was a salesman for a company, and he was at the time, and he was traveling around the country, and he heard it, and he went back and dug with his own hands. He took his shirt and tie off, and he was just there digging with his own hands, trying to get kids out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, God.
But anyway, it doesn't change what's going on today. We have a situation in this country where everything is being totally ruined from what it was. I go to London a lot now, and I just don't recognise it from the time I went in the 90s. What's happened? Why have we allowed our politicians who think they know better than we do? Oh, I know how to run the world. All we're going to do is just open the borders. What's happening is that we, our children and our grandchildren, are going to be collateral damage for what they want to achieve. And they are going to be expected to suck it up and tolerate it all. And we didn't tolerate twice last century. We didn't tolerate people trying to turn up on our beaches then, did we? Yes.
Yeah, but the reason for this is quite clear. We've had a moral decline. I think that the worst epoch in British history, in human history probably, was the 1960s. People said, it was all just freeing of everybody and everything was all peaceful and love. And then you look at the repercussions of it and you go, no, this was actually something else. This was quite an evil, satanic walk away from Christ. I mean, we'd already started walking away during the Enlightenment, which I saw a clip earlier on where Jordan Peterson, who I don't think is very well at the moment, but he said that it looks like the Enlightenment is coming to an end. People are now looking for what's real, not what we are told is real and brought to us as reality through rational reductionism. So that's another conversation altogether. But when we walked away from our Christian moral and our Christian roots, our heritage, I know Ben Habib talks about our constitutional Christianity, which is very important, by the way. But when we walked away from what we are fundamentally as human beings, individuals with our own moral compass linked to Christ, at that point, it all fell apart. Everything fell apart. Yeah. Of course, you can allow people to come in and invade your country with a different belief system because everything's relative. Oh, yes, it doesn't matter what faith you are, belief system. We're all the same. We're all exactly the same, no matter what. Every belief system holds exactly the same values. Every country, every culture holds exactly the same values. Apparently not. Jeff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And before I get on to this one, I just want to go across to... where have I got to? John Dingle. Thank you very much. Our politicians are unaccountable academics that think they know better. My older brother and sister are academics and trust the government and science. That's the problem. People do, don't they? They've been brought up to someone's a professor or something or a doctor or something else or whatever. Oh, everything they spout is absolutely true. We must do as we're told. And that is sort of born through the whole thing. Then you meet up with some of these people and find out they've got the common sense of a turnip. No, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them. And they're very, very clever. But when it comes down to just normal life, it's sort of beyond them a bit. I'm generalising, but you get the idea. Yeah. I
think one of the problems there, Jeff, is that when you've spent too much time, like I know it sounds a really strange thing to say, but if you spent most of your life, first of all, obviously you've been going through the school from infants, juniors to senior school, and then on to college maybe, and it ends at college. Then okay, that's fair enough. But as soon as you start tripping through academia all the way through, you don't actually get too much of an experience of real life. You get, and your level of exposure to far left wing thinking within our halls of education is going to be magnified many times over. And that's good. That means that the brainwashing on the liberal left, who are basically occupying our education systems and our universities and colleges, I mean, that input into the mind of an individual is going to warp their perception of the world. And that's the thing. And they become very trusting. I mean, I worked in film and television, as you know, Jeff, for a while. And in that, it's like people who come straight out of university, okay, or college and university, and they're straight into this lifestyle of, look, you know, your meals are like brought to you half the time, okay? You don't have to worry about anything. Everything's arranged for you. Your life is micromanaged to a ridiculous level. And that's one of the reasons within the film and television industry that there are so many woke idiots. That's why. Because they never have experience. They've never delivered coal. I delivered coal, I'll have you know, when I was 16. I did indeed. I didn't last too long. It was nearly killed me, but I did do it. But people haven't done these things, you know. They haven't
I
lived.
still remember that. I still remember the coal lorry turning up with all the 100-weight sacks on it, and the guys used to
Yes.
jump off, swing these things over their shoulders, come
Done
round
that.
to the back and pour it into your coal bunker. And they and we used to get a ton of stuff delivered once every couple of months, and that was a regular thing. And these guys, you know, big strong guys carrying this stuff around, but wouldn't happen these
Oh.
days. But Richard, I worked within a highly controlled atmosphere as well, called the Armed Forces. And but it was slightly different there, because instead of turning up and having a nice lush meal, sitting back and all the rest of it, you'd suddenly find it interrupted by an exercise or something needs doing. You'd got to get out and all this sort of thing. Your life was always you're running. You always had a big pace in the armed forces. You know, you rush somewhere, then you wait, and then you rush somewhere else and wait, and then all that. So it's slightly different. But there you go. Anyway,
Well, I can tell you now, delivering coal, though, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just tell you about it. You said you used to have that 100-weight delivered. Oh, yes, yes. I mean, we were checking how, goodness knows how many ton, bagging it first. First you have to bag the coal. Then you have to lift the coal onto the lorry, right? And then you had to, obviously you drove along, and then you had to go up some of the steps in the South Wales mining towns. You know, you'd be going up like steps. You know, you're climbing half a mountain to take this bag of coal up. And then, anyway, enough. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry.
we're going back into the dark parts of history. You know,
It was hard
and that's
work.
what they. And people nowadays, if they have to pick up a pencil, they're getting a bit upset because it's too heavy. Can't
Yes.
work. Need Pip to do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
So,
need a
that's
safe
what I
space
get a
now. You
bit-
do. You need a safe space. You know, if that pen is looking a bit offensive, then I mean, you know, sorry, Jeff.
Yes. John Dingle, thank you very much again. My elder siblings were born in Hertfordshire and times were good for my parents. I arrived in 1966. Now, that was a good year. The family had come to Lancashire and it was very hard. Yeah. But at least we won the World Cup. Wales
that.
didn't.
No.
There you go. Anyway, going back to what I was talking about was this the digital ID thing. That now, as far as I'm concerned, is going to become the big issue for us going forwards. If we don't do something about it and stop this digital ID coming in, we won't be able to control anything of our lives. Don't be taken in by the talk that it's just to make it easy so that if you need something in the doctor, your digital ID will cure you and all this sort of thing. It's all about control. And just look at the breaches of information that have happened in the last few days, where loads of information has been lost and gone round the world 5 times before we've even realised there's a breach. That's going to happen with a government-led system. It's going to be hacked. All your information is going to be out there. But I just think we've got to stop that. But the data breach isn't the problem. It's the very fact that the government has the information in the first place to leak it or to allow it to be breached. And that's how they'll control you. And you think borders will be controlled better? No. What will happen is that as soon as someone turns up on the beach, they will need a digital ID to qualify for their free healthcare, their hotel, and everything else. They will have to have an ID to do that, a digital ID. Then the next stage will be, well, they can work then, can't they? They can get a house on us. You get the idea? That's what will happen. Tony Blair's idea, we all have a digital ID, so we're all equal. You can see that coming a mile away. We mustn't allow it to happen.
I mean,
But
I
there you
can't remember
go.
who said it the other day. Is Tony Blair still running Great Britain? Is he the one still running the country? It does seem that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His ideas do seem to keep coming out, don't they? Yeah. As Tony Holland says, Advance UK will be the party in 3.5 years. I hope it'll be before that.
Yes.
We definitely need now to get some impetus going. And it's only because of Advance UK, and I've got to say, Nick Tenconi as well, on the UKIP side, doing what they're doing, which is keeping reform. They're having to step up to the mark, and you'll see that they do keep trying to keep up with what's going on. And that's how it should be. We should be forcing the pace on this, because if we don't, we're going to lose this. By 2030, it'll all be over, whether it be net zero, open borders or whatever. Basically, you won't have a car, you won't have anything of your own, and everyone else will be turning up in the country to benefit. And that's what we should worry about.
And you won't
We
be able
really
to protest because your face will be instantly digitized and you'll be recognised on police camera. You will not get your social credits. You will be... So if you turn up to protest, you won't eat. Your family won't eat. That's how it'll turn out. It's hideous. And speaking of digital IDs, on the weekend, Mr. Jeff Taylor was down in London. And this individual decided to get a little bit aggressive with Mr. Taylor. Now, what a silly Billy he is. Really, all I can say is you're a very silly, silly Billy. And that's it. You don't deserve any more recognition than that. Although what I'll say is that's a little unkind because we are Christian and we have to love our enemies. Is that not true, Jeff? Let's face it, you know?
Yes.
And we've had this conversation. Yeah.
We did have this conversation.
Yeah.
When I got back from London, I was thinking through this, and I think, how do I react to this altercation? I mean, basically, for those who don't know, it's the previous video to this live stream. And all that happened really was that this guy came up behind me while I was filming the protest. The march was approached because I got ahead of the march and then I let them catch up and I sort of filmed them as they approach, trying to see the size, so you can see the sort of size and who's there. It was being led by David Icke, by the way, which was another story. But as it was approaching, someone came from the left, and loads of people were just coming across and crossing the road, left, right, and Chelsea. And a few people came up to me and wanted a quick chat and say hello, or a selfie or whatever. This guy came up, put his phone up to my face, and shouted obscenities at me. And I was sort of filming over him. And I was going,
it was very
"What?"
aggressive. Yeah, it was very aggressive. It was very, very.
So I turned round and I was watching him on the camera, because I could see on the camera as he walked away, and I thought, I can't let him get away with that. So I ran after him as quietly as I could and as fast as I could, caught up with him, and I approached him from the left-hand side, held up my the camera and caught his image, his face on this thing. And as soon as he realised what I was doing, his left arm came up, pushed me aside, and he ran off down the down a side street.
Yeah, he gave you a whack. I could see that. Yeah.
So I
You could hear it.
I chased after him, not for anything other than to film him running away, and it was, you can hear me laughing actually while I was doing it. So these people, why can't they debate? Why can't they talk?
Because they can't. They
run out of ideas. They have no debate. They only have hate. They only have being obnoxious. They only have swearing at people and being totally, I think I used the word gimboid on the video. Yes, the one I did earlier, called him a gimboid. And someone said, you've been watching too much Red Dwarf. Yes, I own up to that. But it just...
I mean, yeah,
why
I mean, for
do
me, it
they
was
have
very
to-
difficult to watch. It was very difficult for me to watch. You know, you're like family to me, Jeff. And for me to watch that, I wanted to instantly be there. Why I wanted to instantly be there, I'll leave to your imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, John Dingle, thank you. Digital ID first, the company directors. Yes, that's turning up as of November the 18th. Servicemen and women, I believe they're going in with the veterans first. And benefit claimants, and then employment law will bring it in. Yes, the company directors is a very obvious sort of place to start. If you get the company directors on that list, then you can say, well, if anyone's working for you, we better make sure they're, part of the club. So you'll have to make sure as a company director, your big company, all the workers have digital ID. Then it will be, well, you use small contractors to supply you with services, don't you? Delivery drivers. Well, they've all got to be digital ID'd before you can use them. And that's how it spreads out. They do it in silos and gradually it spreads out. Now, I was forwarded from someone a letter they got back from their MP about their concerns. And all it was, oh, no, it's all about your convenience. You'll be able to get hold of information. You'll be able to get your services much better, your dentist, your health care, and all the rest of it. Yeah, have you noticed that whenever the government wants to convince you to do something, the first card they bring up is the NHS card? Save the NHS, vote for me, yeah? Or we're doing this to save the NHS. The ID card is here so you can use the NHS. Have you noticed this? Everything revolves around the NHS. And as soon as they say something like that, I just go, don't believe you one bit. I just don't believe you.
Jeff, it's just quite funny, this whole digital ID. Well, it's not funny at all. They will come for the company director. They come for a lot of people very quickly. And so unless by November there is a real push to get something sorted here, a lot of people have to... I mean, to be honest with you, I don't quite see this thing with the company directors being the full digital ID. I mean, it's just... We're digitized anyway. If we think we're not, we're living a lie. If you have social media, if you have a digital footprint online, you're already in the system. That's it. But it does remind me this whole digital, as in having a showable digital ID. This is not what the it's different types of verification for company directors. But anyway, it says it also forced all. This is from the Bible, by the way. It says here it also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so they could not buy or sell unless they received the mark, which is a very strange passage in the Bible. And I do think, I mean, that's in Revelation 13, if you want to look it up yourself. I think we are definitely moving towards that. I mean, everything that's going on here, you have the image of the beast, which is quite clearly looking very much like AI when you see what the image of the beast of Revelation actually does. So we need to be aware of this. Especially if we're Christian. We can play around pretending we're Christian, or we can get serious about it. What's coming at the moment is not, by the way, the mark of the beast, but it is the precursor towards it. Just as the arm intervention was, people receiving that was all part of the precursor, the prepping of the human psyche. But things are looking very eschatological at the moment. I mean, and I know, Jeff, we never used to talk about this stuff, but it's becoming more apparent. I mean, I'm watching Tommy Robinson out in Israel, and talking about how beautiful he finds the Holy Land and its impact on him since he's become a Christian, and what it's doing to him and his psyche over there. It's beautiful, beautiful. I just don't think we should be ashamed of saying this anymore. If it looks like a horse, it's probably a horse. If it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And that's it.
Now, as Rabbi Malachiah says, yes, love your enemies even when you're forced to bury them. And that's a very, very good line, because a lot of people think that if you love your enemy, you have to let them hurt you. And that's how you love them. No, that's just not true. I think that is a better summing up of the situation than what people think. That's just my view, anyway.
Oh, love your enemies when you're forced to bury them. And that's that sort of line. The way I interpret that more than anything is sometimes you have to, you might be forced to physically bury them. That's the thing. People that you hate, you might be forced to. And this is something that goes back quite a way into where soldiers would bury not just their own dead, but the dead of the enemy as well sometimes. That is something that...
I'm not thinking... I'm more talking about actively engaged in...
Oh, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's another way of looking at this, which is the way I see it as well. Because love, what is love? In terms of when you're applying it to an enemy, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. We're talking about people who might have wronged you in the most hideous ways. I know I've had people in my life who have done horrific things to me. Horrific. Okay, members of my own family who have done horrific things to me. And I think, do you know what? I've just got to love them and forgive them. It doesn't mean I won't forget and I will trust again. But this is part of it. This is part of the psyche of Christianity. You have to love, so even those who hurt you. And it's very, very difficult because otherwise, it's in the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses, our wrongdoings as we forgive those who wrongdo against us. Very difficult. Not easy. Not easy. It's one of the most difficult things I can do as a Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that they talk about in the church. Well, it was a recent sermon. Anyway, thank you, John Dingle. KYC of Know Your Customer might have been the start, ? Buying from any financial exchange requires it. Yeah, this is a know your customer thing. If you're a broker of some sort or an investment specialist or whatever, banker, and you have customers, you have to know your customer. So you have to know about their banking, you have to know about what they do for a living, how much they're earning, all this sort of thing. So you get to know them so that you can give them the right service, the right investments, the right mortgage, the right insurance, whatever else it might be. But also that all has to be written down. And you could imagine that being coupled in with some sort of ID system with a social credit system as well, couldn't you? Turn up and you're being told that you can't have the service you wanted because your social credit isn't very good standing. Your financial credit score, your normal credit score that you get from when you go in for a loan at the moment, that's fine. That's all hunky-dory. You can have twice as much as you want to borrow. But your social credits won't allow it. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much, JJ. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you.
Now, Richard, are we doing a post session tonight?
I think so. Yeah, I've got something ready for
right,
that.
tell them. Tell the people.
All right,
tell
okay,
the people.
all you lot, when we finish this live stream, we'll be going over within about 5-10 minutes, or even sooner or later, I don't know, but rather soon after, to do our post live stream for members. We want to give something back to the people who help contribute through the membership scheme, and it would be otherwise it's a bit hollow for them. So we want to do that. We've had a few people coming in, Jeff, as we have some nice little conversations, and it's very pleasant. So if you'd like to do that, Jeff's, by the way, your microphone's muted, which never mind.
The best situation for it to be.
yeah. But anyway, so if you'd like to join on your YouTube app, there's a join button there. If you'd like to click that, it's for the same price as a pint of beer in a London pub, or even a coffee in some coffee houses in London. Yeah, so that'd be lovely if you want to join us later after this live stream.
Yeah.
So, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Edward Goldentooth. Stop the boats, deport the criminals. I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
No, that's exactly right.
I mean, at the moment, the government's ignoring us, isn't it?
Yeah,
Police
yeah.
are ignoring us. They're more intent. Their job is just to keep the peace. And if there's a large contingent of people who might not keep the peace, get the peaceful protesters out the way so that the other large group doesn't turn nasty. That's where we're at. And the government's fine with that. See, they allow all those pro-Palestine marches are going to keep going on. They have now made it clear that Israel has to be destroyed. They've said it. They're the ones who've said it. These marches will continue until it's gone. Till it's they can hide it behind all different sorts of speak and all the rest of it. But as far as they're concerned, from the river to the sea keeps going until from the river to the sea has occurred. Yeah. And I say, enough. They need to be banned. I'm sorry, they need to be banned. They are now calling in our country basically for genocide. They need to be stopped.
Well,
Anyway,
Jeff,
that's my
in the
thoughts.
video you played at the very start of this, at the very start, you could see that the other side, they were flying the Palestinian flag. And I'm like, what's this got to do with the protest? What? So this Palestinian flag, it is not a... It symbolizes something else now entirely other than Palestine and free Palestine and being the flag of Palestine. It is now an aggressive movement against what I would call the indigenous Brits of this country. When I say indigenous, this is not a racial term, although there is quite a racial component, sort of. But this is more to do with, that's historical, incidentally. This is more to do with intergenerational, just a generation or two of people who have decided, or people who have just come here, and not even intergenerationally, think about it. Just anyone who's come to this country decided to help come together, unify, work with the British people, and become part of it, not try and change it. So when I say indigenous, I suppose the correct term is just people who want to be British instead of wanting to be Palestine. I mean, look at these bloody MPs we've got right now who are brought in, who've just come into our parliament, who basically came on the back of the Gaza ticket. What's that about? And we can see this happening. As I said, you can see the flag in Southampton being flown, and I thought, that versus the English flag. Why is this allowed to happen? How did we get here? And when I'm starting to see this, this is where I know that they're becoming emboldened, and there's something very ugly about to happen very soon. And we pray that it doesn't. We pray that this can be put off and that we can get a diplomatic route out. Jeff.
Yeah, what gets me is that where flags are concerned, no one had any problem with flags being flown at all across the entire country until people started putting up Union flags and flags of St. George. Suddenly, it becomes a major problem. Beforehand, it wasn't a major problem at all throughout the whole of London. I've been there several times during in the lead up. In the last few years, pro-Palestine marches have been there all the time. Cars put them on their bonnets and they're flying from everywhere. No one cared. Suddenly, we get a Union Jack on the bonnet of a car and it's dangerous because it might fly off, or it might fly off a flagpole or off a lamppost or something. It was never a problem before that. It's only a problem when it's patriots concerned. That's the only problem. And that tells you it goes back to Tony Blair and his "we are all global citizens now." Yeah. But that means that everyone can come here and wave their flags, but there is no flag here to do that with.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what's Richard listening to?
I'm just trying to get this thing off here a sec. It's my phone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to prepare something for this post thing here, and it's just gone.
Oh, right, okay.
Gone off,
yeah.
Which is very strange.
Anyway, all I'm going to say now is that Richard's having technical difficulties, and so I think it's time for us to.
Well, it makes a change from you, Jeff. It's Richnology, and I'm not Jeffnology. Good grief.
Yeah, Jeff and Richnology is the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all I can say is thank you very much for joining us for this little chat, and I hope you got something out of it. Please like, subscribe, comment below, the usual things, and become a channel member so that you can watch the post live stream, kickback live stream,
Which I'm trying to
as
get
we
ready
sort
now.
of call it, which we're getting ready to do now.
Oh,
And,
dear.
Yeah, so members only thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
God bless
so-
you all, and
Yeah.
let's hope for a peaceful outcome. Let's hope that everything doesn't go the way that some people are predicting, and that
yes.
could be quite yeah. God bless you all. Anyway, over to you, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and all I'll say is it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him, from Mr. Jeff Taylor. Goodbye.
Goodbye.